Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards and today's session is focusing around attack and transitions. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be looking at a counter-attack, okay, which is going to then turn into a crossing scenario. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is getting the attackers used to scoring, okay, and then transitioning into a crossing scenario. So then when we work on recovering the ball in small-sided games, okay, we've already been working on when we win it back, being clinical in that final third. But before we get into this part of the session, let's have a look at how many players we've got and the equipment that we'll be using this week. So we have 13 players in total. We have 12 outfield players and a goalkeeper. Obviously, if you don't have a goalkeeper, try and use a coach or a parent. Okay, and obviously, if you don't have that, you're just going to have to try and put areas in the goal for the players to aim to score. In terms of the equipment, we're going to have balls, bibs, cones, poles, if you have them as well, to use as maybe small-sided goals later on. Or obviously, if you don't have a goal, then you can use poles to use for the goal. In terms of the setup for this part of the session, okay, so we're going 30 yards of width, okay, in the inside here, all right, and then between 5 and 10 yards either side, okay, for the crosses. So you don't want to give them too much room, but you also don't want to be too tight so they can actually take touches forward into space. In terms of the depth, we're going 40 yards total, okay. So from the start line here into the centre backs is going to be 10 yards, and then we're going to have 25 yards of depth in between the centre backs here and the attackers, and then we're going to have 5 yards further back for these players here. And then the attackers here will be about 20 yards away from goal so they can take the touches forward to cross instantly. So this play, I used to say, is focusing on a counter-attack, so a sequence, and then the crosses here are going to have a ball each, and the coach will tell them who's going to cross and finish. So each attacker must touch the ball before the attack. Okay, so if the coach plays into one of the blues here, so you're going to have 2 groups of 3, so they will rest. Same with the centre backs, and you can swap them over if you want. So if the coach plays into the player in the middle here, they will then play to one of the wide players. The other wide player will then switch the ball. As soon as that player's took a touch, then we're instantly attacking. Okay, so there's this passing sequence finished. So then we're looking at our support runs. Okay, so if the player in the wide area receives it, we're looking for maybe for one player to cut in front, one player maybe to go to the side, or you might have one player staying on the same side, one player coming round, so the coach can even move out the way to start with if they're driving inside. Centre-backs instantly look to step up the pitch and put pressure on. Okay, we're trying to attack quickly, so we're looking for them support runs. You might have a player make a run in behind, and then a player might make a run across, bring the defenders in. Okay, so then we're looking to create that space and score as soon as that ball is dead. Okay, so the keeper saves it, goes wide, goes in the goal. Okay, one of the crosses, okay, so the coach will shout right or left. So if you've got your right winger and your left winger or fullback, okay, coach will shout right or left, and then that player will instantly look to go into space, okay, to cross the ball. So you can take a touch out the feet, get the head up. If there's no options again, take another touch. After that, they must deliver. Okay, so they're on 2 touches before they cross. So as soon as that ball goes in, what we're looking for then is the players to react. Okay, so you might have a player who's coming here, spinning around the outside. One player goes to the front post, and then one player comes in short. The centre-backs may follow. Okay, so then the ball might come in here. Then we can either set across again for somebody to finish, or we can shoot first time. Okay. After that's finished, the cross, then the next thing we see, these players move up into the attacking positions. Crosser goes back to where they come from. Centre-backs will swap over, and then these attackers will go on the outside, so the next player can start, and we don't have to wait for them to get back to the middle. Okay, and the coach will have the next ball and go again. Okay, so this time it might go out of the player to the left first, out of the player to the right, and then into the middle. Okay, so then if this player is driving in here, then we are looking for them runs across. Okay, so it might be defenders come out. Okay, these players run straight to start with, and then one comes on the outside here, takes them away. One player comes this side, goes clean through and goal, causes confusion with the defenders, and it's in there. And then it might be the left sided player delivering next. So then again, you can have this deep run. Okay, you might have this player coming in short. They can receive it here to then set back into this player to score, or they might go in short. You might get a player taking an attack on the back post, and then a player crosses it in. Okay, so what we're looking for is pinpoint crosses in those areas, okay, and being clinical in the final third. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Now moving into part 2 of this week's session, we're now moving into our first small-sided game-based scenario, okay, focusing on recovering the ball to then going to score. So we've got a 6v6 scenario with the green team here having a goalkeeper. So in terms of the setup, we've got 30 yards of total width, okay, and we've got 50 yards of total depth. So the end zone here, which is the final third, is going to be 30 yards wide and 20 yards deep, okay, and then this area here is going to be 20 yards wide and 10 yards deep, and then the same for this one is going to be 20 yards by 20 yards, okay, so 20 yards wide, 20 yards deep, just because the 3v3 in here, we want to try and give the Blues a chance to win the ball, and if it's too wide, it's too easy for the Greens to keep possession, okay? So we've got 2 small-sided goals here as well, so if the Greens lose possession and then win it back, they can look to score instead of trying to keep possession. We're trying to make it realistic for them to recover the ball and score as well, and then that could be an opportunity for you to progress the session, okay, to then say, if you just win the ball back and then you score, okay, you can swap over and become the counter-attacking team, and it's just something for the other team to work towards. So we're going to have 3v3 in the deep zone and the high zone, okay? So the middle zone here is for teams to receive, okay? So when the coach plays into the greens here, okay, one of these greens can come in here to keep possession. 2 can even come in, okay? But then what they've got to think of is if they lose the ball, they've obviously got a negative overload, okay, and it's a 3v1 in here, so if a ball gets played through quickly or it's driven into space, okay, it's easy for the Blues to attack. So when this ball gets played in here, what the Blues are looking to do is make it difficult for them to keep the ball, okay, so when they win it back, eventually, so if they try and go, if they put one man in here, okay, and they look to play through and the Blues win it back, okay, the counter-attack only begins when they either drive the ball into the middle zone, okay, so it's driving into space by winning possession, or they play into someone in here. So you can have a forward run, or you can have somebody dropping in deep to start the counter-attack, okay? So that gives them the chance to secure the ball before going forward, okay? But they don't want to take too long, because obviously then the Greens can obviously get into shape. But also with the Greens, okay, they might try and step up and win the ball, okay? You might get 2 of them stepping in, okay, making it difficult. The players in here trying to win the ball back, okay, which makes it harder for the Blues to try and go forward. But what we're going to try and see is they win the ball back, okay? You might have the right winger dropping in. When that right winger drops in, our midfielders can support the play. So as soon as that ball goes into this zone here, okay, it's basically free play, okay? So the Greens can go and defend in here, okay? All of the Greens, all of the Blues can go and attack. But obviously we want to think of if we transition. So you want to try and keep one of the Blues in here, okay, as a defender, and the Greens as well will try and keep somebody up here if they do win the ball back as an attacking option. But they can still get people supporting the play. So then we might get this player here driving with the ball, okay, pulling the defence out, okay, obviously we've got this positive overload, okay, so you might play into wide areas, and then we go and attack and score. So what we've been seeing is scoring from a cross and finish, okay, and also scoring from a counter-attack. So the 2 scenarios which we've done in part 1, okay, become more realistic now, all right, in this area here, because we might obviously cross and finish, or obviously we might have players driving at the defence, okay, looking for a through ball to then go into the final third and score. But obviously now we've got defenders, so that first part, okay, was about getting a lot of success on the attacking for the attackers, and now it's dealing with in more of a game realistic situation. Obviously, if the Greens win the ball back in here, the keeper might save it. The keeper saves it, we carry on. It might play out, so then again for the Blues, can we look to recover the ball to score? Okay, it's still free play until the ball is finished, basically. So if someone scores or the ball goes wide, or it obviously goes out of play, so then we can step up here. Can we make it difficult for them to play through? They try and play through, we pinch it back again, and then can we go and score? Little combinations to get into there and then finish. So we want to reduce our touches in these areas, okay? Be clinical, play at a high tempo, okay? And quick movements, both on and off the ball, okay? And then, like I say, being in that final third, being clinical in there, not taking too many touches, touch and finish. So you could bring a rule in, okay? If a player receives the ball, they have a limited amount of touches in that final third, okay? But obviously you don't want to do that too much, because if you want to play driving into space and you give them 3 touches and they're going to take a man on 1v1, very difficult to do it in 3 touches and then to get the ball to somebody else. We will now move into our second animation before moving on to this week's 4-corner model. Okay, so taking a look at this week's 4-corner model, starting off with technical and tactical. Okay, one of the main focuses is our movement, both creating space and receiving the ball. Okay, so obviously when we're counter-attacking, we've got to be clever with our movements. We can't just keep running in straight lines, as it's a lot easier for the defenders, obviously, to defend against. Obviously, what we're looking for is players to make runs across the defenders, in behind and on the shoulder, okay, and runs in behind as well, to maybe come short and then go long, and then vice versa again. So providing options on the ball, okay, for players to play into, but also creating space for them players to drive and up to score, and then our movement to receive. So again, coming in short to then go long, and then obviously maybe double movements, okay, starting wide to come in more centrally, and then obviously the opposite ways as well. Then looking to secure the ball. Okay, so once we gain possession, so we recover the ball, okay, we're looking to score, but we have to secure the ball first. Okay, so getting the ball out of an area where there's lots of pressure and there's a lot of players. Okay, so getting it into space and then going forward. So that first pass is vital. That first touch, that first, driving into space, that first dribble. Okay, it's got to secure the ball, and then we're looking to attack. All right, and then finally, clinical in the final third. Okay, so it's important to tell the players not to hesitate in that final third. Be confident, okay, to take a touch and finish, to hit the ball first time, because you give yourself more chance to score. Keepers still getting set, okay, it's harder for them to read where it's going to go. Whereas the more time you take and the more they have to think about it, okay, the less chance there is to score, and the defenders and even the goalkeeper will become more confident. Moving into the psychological corner, again, being confident on the ball. So being confident to drive into space, confident to play that first pass forward, confident to take a chance in the final third. So that comes from the coach giving the players that confidence to take those risks, and also themselves believing in themselves, and teammates as well passing on that information. Anticipation as well. Okay, so anticipating where a player is going to run into. Okay, so then where can we create that space for them? Anticipating where the player is going to play a pass, so then we can get across, okay, and intercept it, which we'll be looking at in a moment in part 3. And then looking at our agency. Okay, so agency to win the ball back, agency to get forward. Okay, we've got to do it like when we're going to move into the physical corner at a high tempo and a high pace, okay? But making sure that, when we win that ball back, instantly we're switching on, okay, to get forward, okay, to try and score. It's got to be quicker than the opposition. Moving into the physical corner, so starting off at speed, that's both on and off the ball. So driving at speed, playing at speed, okay, without the speed, moving quickly, okay, into space, okay, to create space for other players, okay, so then when we receive the ball, we're playing at a high pace, okay, we've got more chance of going forward quickly, attacking the space, and then scoring. Our endurance levels, okay, so being relentless to win the ball back, okay, it's hard work, okay, but if we look at teams like Liverpool, Manchester City, Leicester recently as well, the Bayern Munich, they're relentless in wanting to win the ball back. They're pressing the teams all the time, high up the pitch, okay, and in the middle third, all over the pitch to win the ball back and then going to score. But what we notice is that when they recover the ball, they secure it, they play into areas where they can get overloads, and then they look to attack. Okay, so we want the players to show that agency, show that stamina, to keep going, keep pressing the opposition, and then when you win the ball back, punishing them as well. And then so that works into our intensity, okay, making it uncomfortable for the opposition to play. So as soon as they take the touch or they're getting the head up, there's someone there, okay, they're closing the options down, it's making it difficult for them. So if they're keeping the ball, they're working at their hardest as well to keep it, which is what we want to see from our players as well. Both sides of the game, obviously the team that we're coaching a little bit more, the other team, we want them other players working at that high intensity as well. So on a Saturday, they're more accustomed to it. Finally, our social corner, so communication. Telling the player where to press, okay, so go and press the ball. When we get it back, time, man on, driving into space. Telling the player to shuffle across, okay, telling the player to press high, and then you're supporting, so getting your players across. Working as a group, okay, so working as a group to win the ball back. Working as a group to attack, okay, so again, that communication side. Telling the player where you're going to run, holding the ball, when to play the ball, and then finally support. So supporting your teammates in terms of with their runs, supporting your players when they're going in on goal to encourage them as well, and just providing each other, okay, with that confidence, okay, and that belief to win the ball back. Before we carry on with the rest of the video, I've got some exciting news. Our website will be launching on Monday the 2nd of November, where you'll find content for coaches and players, including session plans, which contain a full description, animation, setup and four-corner model, as well as tactical analysis, which is all available for just $4.99 a month or for a yearly fee of £50. So head over to jackedwardscoaching.com now, where you can subscribe for exclusive news and content. Now moving into the final part of this week's session, we're now moving into our second small-sided game scenario. Okay, one side focusing on possession, one side focusing on obviously trying to recover the ball to try to score. So the setup which we're going to have is 40 yards of depth total. You can make one area slightly bigger, okay, if you want to make it a little bit more difficult, or if you think it's too tight. In terms of the width, okay, we're going 30 yards total. Okay, that can be brought in as well if it's too big. And obviously we're going to have two 20 yards here. Okay, so 20 yards for our final third, 20 yards for the possession zone. And we've got two little 2x2 grids, whatever you want them to be, for players in here to wait. And obviously the players around here, you're trying to tell them not to pull back too far. Okay, so you might give them 5 yards maximum. Okay, so when they're receiving the ball, and then you have to bring the ball forward. So it's going to start off a 6v4 scenario. And then after every 5 passes that the greens make, okay, 1 extra attacker will come in. So then when you counter attack, they've got extra bodies and it gives them more chance to win the ball. If that's becoming too hard for them to do 5 passes, you can increase it to 10, okay? Or you might want to just do it as the session progresses, that it is 10 passes anyway, or you might bring in that they've got 2 touch maximum. In terms of the greens, okay, so you could say for every 10 passes they get a point, or to start with every 5 passes they get a point, and then every time they play into the middle players and play out, they get a point. Constraint, what I would say would have is when these green players receive the ball in the middle, they can't play back out the same way. Okay, so that means it's a good intent for us to go and win the ball. Okay, that's a trigger for us to win the ball, like they're going to have to play out to an opposite side, so we know where we can press. So if the ball comes in here, don't let them go back, they're not allowed to. Okay, so then we're going to get round the ball to recover it. When the Blues recover the ball, instantly looking to attack. Okay, so in this area. So the player on the far side won't press the ball. The 2 wide players here can come back. Obviously, it will be difficult for them, but if the Blues take too long getting the ball out, then it's fine, okay? And you've got the 2 central players trying to stop them getting out. As soon as they get in that final third, looking to score. You can maybe swap the players, the 2 teams round after a few goes, okay? So these get a little bit more rest, and obviously you're working with all the players. So coach will play into one of the greens, okay? So the Blues are trying to stop them playing through, okay? And they're trying to hurry these players on the outside, who really should be on 2 touch, these players on the outside. So looking to play it round. Okay, we're still looking to intercept these passes as well. If there's a poor ball, we can go get it. But we're trying to stop these players in the middle getting it, okay? Or we're trying to put it into areas where when they do get it, okay, look, there's no turn, there's no way out. So then we're looking to press the ball, win it, go forward, support, okay, get them support runs quick, move at speed, okay, quicker than the opposition, get the ball into that final third and score. So then, if the greens do complete 5 passes, one of them will come in. We want the nearest player to the ball to go in. Okay, so the ball's on this side, we want this player to come in. Okay, if the ball's on obviously the opposite side, we want them to go in. If the ball's high, it just depends who's more willing to go in, really. So then you've got a 6v5 scenario, so we've got 1 more extra player, okay, to go in there. So then if the ball is getting transferred, 1 player can afford to press that ball more. Okay, you always want 2 players occupying these 2, but also at the same time, don't have to follow them too much, because if one of them pulls out here, okay, and the ball's on this side, it's going to be very difficult for this team to get that ball to that player. Okay, if they come in short, that's when you can occupy them. So when they get the ball, it's difficult for them. But also don't go too close. Okay, think about angles and distances. So then they might think, oh, we got a chance to get the ball. So then they take a touch, and then we're on them, and then we win the ball. Then we're looking to attack quickly. Okay, in that final third, to then score as quick as we can. Okay, so they're creating that movement. Okay, them support runs. Okay, and then setting that intensity high and being relentless to win the ball back. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. For more content, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and TikTok. The links will be in the description below, and we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.